Welcome to part one of What Now? Preparing for the Road Ahead. This is a two-part series on energy democracy and policy and practice, hosted by the Energy Democracy Project. My name is Selena Feliciano, and I serve as a national campaign coordinator at the Energy Democracy Project of Refocus, Reimagine Energy for Our Communities, US. I am calling in from the ancestral homelands of the Ohlone people, West Oakland, California, and I'm so excited to be gathering together as part of our first public conversation in 2025 hosted at the project. Next slide, please. The Energy Democracy Project, can we click spacebar once again? Great. Yes. So the Refocus campaign, again, stands for Reimagine Energy for Our Communities, US. It is the main campaign of the Energy Democracy Project, and we're a collaborative of over 40 organizations that are spread all across the country, putting power back in the hands of the people. And this campaign is really about stories. Stories about you and me and our neighbors, and how real everyday people all across the country are reimagining the ways that we organize our lives and livelihoods to support the health and well-being of our communities and of our ecosystems. In the face of calamity, in 2025 and beyond, we remain steadfast in our commitment to justice. Next slide, please. So we've got folks that are spread across many miles on this call. And today we're honing in on these links as they relate to energy. And we usually kick off conversations in the Refocus campaign with our homes and ground in something familiar. And your home might be city, it might be countryside, or it might be coast. But here we have pictured homes in Highland Park, Michigan, a home in Los Angeles, California, and a home in Louisa, Virginia. In all of these homes, power is used. It keeps us warm in the winter, cool in the summertime, and safe in a changing climate. And we all deserve this power because it's essential to life. But for far too long, there are entities that have thought otherwise. Next slide, please. So as part of the Refocus campaign, we're pulling back the veil of the ways in which centralized power, specifically control over decision-making of energy, is held in the hands of a few, while the rest of us are left to suffer. And centralized power here in the US, we see depicted in this triangle, power companies, authorities, a dangerous federal administration. They've all written the rules on the cost, the reliability, the safety of our electricity. And we see that today. Next slide, please. Our new normal is one in which we have a dangerous federal transition that has ushered in major cuts to social services, threatened the safety of trans folks, of immigrants, and many more of our loved ones and neighbors. Thousands of jobs have been slashed, and the outlook of constitutional rights looks shaky as the coup on the federal government, led by corporate control, continues. We also have a new normal of unprecedented climate disaster. Pictured here is the aftermath of the LA fires that burned more than 40,000 acres, destroyed more than 12,300 structures, and prompted evacuation orders and warnings for more than 200,000 residents in the first month of the year. Meanwhile, in other parts of the country, record-breaking cold. Here we have depicted in the Southeast on January 21st, Baton Rouge recorded 7.6 inches of snow, making it the city's snowiest day since records began in 1892, while New Orleans saw its snowiest day since records began in 1948 with a total of 8 inches. So, what now? Next slide, please. We know it doesn't have to be this way. And we know that energy is a tool for extraction and control of Mother Earth, of our safety, and of our livelihoods. But we also know that energy can be a tool for liberation. And our solidarity in recognizing the mirrors across our communities and the opportunities for new systems is what makes us stronger. And now more than ever in 2025, in the face of these overwhelming contextual details, we have an opportunity to dive deeper into the solidarity. So today's discussion is going to be dynamic, and we'll offer you all some tools, some stories, and actions for you to think through what a reimagined energy for our communities looks like. A future without extraction, without exploitation, and with liberation for people across race, class, and geography. Because the energy system of tomorrow is already being organized today. And we have 3 really powerful organizers here to share their stories with you. So let's kick off our conversation. Today we have 3 speakers from Michigan, California, and Virginia, sharing their stories of energy democracy and how we're organizing to put power back in the hands of the people. As they speak, some of them will be sharing slides, as I am. We're supported today by Noura El Marzouki, helping out with tech. Shouts out. And our first speaker is going to be Michelle Jones. Initially, we had Monica Booker of Soulardarity scheduled to join us today, but unfortunately, she's not feeling well, but was gracious enough to extend an invitation to her teammate, Michelle Jones, who's been with Soulardarity for 4 years and currently serves as the Programs and Community Engagement Manager. And during our time in Soulardarity, she has prioritized helping the people in her community, especially those in the BIPOC communities who constantly deal with energy burdens and face energy poverty issues. Specializing in advocating the fight for energy and climate justice while working towards a sustainable, reliable, and clean energy future, Michelle focuses on educating communities on how to effectively make their voices heard. When Michelle is not at Soulardarity, she is an avid traveler and loves spending time with her 7 children and 19 grandchildren. Welcome, Michelle. I'll pass the mic over to you.
Thank you, Selena. I'm glad to be able to be with you all today and represent Soulardarity. Soulardarity is a 501c3 nonprofit that is based in Highland Park, Michigan. And just for context, Soulardarity was founded in 2012 when DTE repossessed over 1,400 streetlights in our residential areas. They did not just turn the street lights off. They literally came and dug them up out of the ground and left an entire city in the dark. So, in the process of our mission being restoring those street lights with solar powered, Wi-Fi capable streetlights, which we've done 17 as of today, and hopefully are looking to do another 10 this year. We also begin to realize how much the energy burden affected our community. When you begin to talk about energy and then you bring up the monopolies, people begin to talk back to you. And we realized that people were really suffering, not just from the lack of physical light, but the lack of emotional hope in light. And it was affecting them all around. Highland Park is comprised mostly of BIPOC older Americans, and they don't have the means and the funds to pay the bills sometimes, especially these new bills that came out. I don't know about anybody else. Well, everybody's not from Michigan, Detroit, but DTE recently got another rate hike. They have gotten 2 rate hikes in the last 2 years. It goes back further than that. But this last one has taken a serious toll. My daughter sent me her 1 month bill. It's just her daughter, and her son in a bungalow, and it was $1,000. It was not that high before. So I don't know. I think DT thinks that all of us have gotten a pay raise and they want the pay raise that we got. I don't know. But we begin to realize that the voices of the community need to be augmented when we come before the Michigan Public Service Commission. We needed to put some pressure on them to make some changes. And so Soulardarity got real deep into the fight of trying to bring energy democracy and energy justice to the forefront. Now, some of the things that we've done when it comes down to this is last year in March, we had a utilities ratepayer clinic where we brought in another organization that partnered with us, and we began to bring in community members and educate them to the rights that they have when it comes to dealing with DTE. A lot of them did not realize that they had rights. And to be honest with you, when before I got with Soulardarity, I didn't think I had any rights either. It was either you pay the bill or they turn it off. I didn't know there was something else I could do. And so we began to not only educate them, but help them to use those resources to take care of their situation at that time. We were able to service over 17 clients and helping them to either get power restored or to prevent a shutoff. And we were excited about that. And so we began to realize, this is a serious thing that's going on. Is there any way that we can help people actually pay their bills? And so Soulardarity started the Soulardarity Utilities Assistance Program. And I mean, this was like a jump start. This wasn't something we had in the plans to do. It was like we saw the need. Okay, how can we help this need? We were able to service over 40 families, and we were able to pay over $90,000 in utility bills, phone bills, internet bills, anything that came to energy. We did not have a 15-page application. I think our application was maybe 2 pages long at that. All we wanted to do was make sure that people had the power that they needed. Also, we have a resiliency hub that's going on. And last year, we gave out over 50 cooling kits in the summertime. These kits were valued at $100+ and had everything we could think of that you might need to stay comfortable if you didn't have any power. Including the bag itself. It was an insulated bag, okay? And then there was a battery powered fan, and we put some batteries in there. We put a solar charger in there, and numerous things to make sure people could be comfortable. And this year we're looking to give out cooling kits in the same, I mean, warming kits in the same way. So Soulardarity has been really busy trying to not only augment the voices, but also meet the needs in the community. Uh, we don't, I mean, we're yes, we're Highland Park based, but it's not our only focus. We're trying to help as many people as possible. So when we paid those utility bills, it was opened up to the Detroit area, you know, and we started out with, I think, maybe half of the funds that we had, and people just kept coming. They kept coming. And our CEO, our ED, Shamika, wanted to meet every single bill. Okay. And so Shamika went and found more money. Okay. She's like, no, we can't turn them away. And even when we were through, we felt bad, but we are looking to do it again this year. We're trying our best to gear up this year and once again offer the utilities assistance program. Um, you asked us to talk about ways that people can have a call to action. Well, my call to action is several things. Number one, support organizations that are fighting for energy democracy and energy justice. Um, None of us have enough people. I'm sorry, I don't think any of us have enough people. And my mantra is many voices sound like thunder. That's my mantra. Many voices sound like thunder, and we need for this to be thunder. Uh, we saw what's going on. That's the best I can say about it. Okay. Everybody saw it. I didn't watch it live. I couldn't. But we realized we've got a major fight on our hands. Major. If we want to save our climate, if we want to make sure people have the energy they need just to live. So support organizations that are fighting for that. So far as Soulardarity is concerned, um, We do a virtual open house every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Michigan time, whatever that is. I think it's Eastern. Okay. 10 a.m. Wednesday mornings. All right. On Facebook Live and on YouTube. And there's an opportunity for people to join in, uh, even an opportunity for you to have something to say. If you want to come on and be one of our panelists and let us interview you, we will be more excited than to do so. But it's an opportunity for people to get more and more information about what's going on with Solidarity and the Highland Park, Detroit area. Next, last, pay attention to who represents energy democracy and energy justice. All right? Fight with your voice and fight with your vote. Pay attention to who is speaking out. And I mean speaking out, not just kind of saying a little something and going on, but I mean taking a stand for energy justice and energy democracy. Let your voice be heard with your vote. And we can begin to see some change because if we don't, see, my fight comes from more than one place. As you said, I have 19 grandchildren. I want to make sure that they have a clean, reliable source of energy as they grow up. So let's make this fight about the future. Many voices sound like thunder. Thank you, Selena.
Thank you, Michelle, for your
Good
powerful
job.
press. Yes. Wow.
Good job.
It sounds like Reverend Jackson agrees. There's just so
Yeah.
there. And I know I'm really appreciative of these really clear calls to action that you've offered us. And also all of the examples of the powerful organizing that Solidarity has been leading for years now. Because as we know, in this space, calamity has extended far before 2025, and we're seeing the threats of ongoing calamity around the corner. So I see y'all doing the work of preparing community for that calamity and also supporting community and staying grounded, resilient, and safe as things get hotter, winters get colder, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our next speaker.
Good job, Miss Jones. Appreciate you.
Yes. Our next speaker is Reverend Jackson. And Reverend Frank Jackson Jr. is the chairman and CEO of Village Solutions Foundation, or VSF for short, a faith-based community development corporation in Irvine, California. He's also a community initiatives affiliate at the University of Southern California Center for Religion and Civic Culture, Cecil Murray Center for Community Engagement, and a graduate of the 2007 Passing the Mantle program. He has over 30 years of experience in corporate governance, compliance, technical assistance, and community initiative strategic planning. In 2019, VSF launched the eSmart/eStewardship Pathway 2045 initiative, which aims to help faith-based and community-based organizations achieve carbon neutrality and environmental justice by 2045. They provide training and support in compliance and governance for 501c3s, energy education, and clean energy career opportunities. Reverend Jackson currently serves in many different capacities, including SCE's Clean Energy Access Working Group Committee. And in 2022, he completed the Energy Innovation and Emerging Technologies program at Stanford University's Center for Professional Development, School of Engineering. He's a recipient of the 2023 California Energy Commission's Clean Energy Hall of Fame Champions Award and 2024 Southern California Edison's Clean Energy Champion Award. He is married to Anita Jackson, president and co-founder of VSF, and together they have two children, Carla and Bianca, and two grandchildren, Sophia and Jackson. Welcome, Reverend Jackson.
Thank you guys there. Again, just wanted to thank Miss Jones. As a fellow Detroiter, I went to Detroit Kettering, so I'm a K boy. And again, we're a faith-based community development corporation. And one of the things that we really did try to highlight when we started this kind of venture on this energy environment was how do we bring this information and I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Madison. He would say, how can we put it where the goats can get it? Because that's been one of the challenges for our community, but especially the Black and the Brown community. That's been one of the challenges is how do we make this information relatable? And so what we did was sitting down and working with Southern California Edison, working with Southern California Gas, working with the public utilities and the municipal utilities in the Los Angeles, Southern California area. We came up with this concept of a energy ambassador program. And what that program does is we go out as part of the University of Southern California program is to identify those ministries, that have an interest in the energy environment. And then we first off, they go through the program at the University of Southern California. And the program is called the Triangle of Success program. We have two triangles. The first triangle is home, school, community. How does this energy environment impact the home? How does it impact the school? How does it impact the community? And when we say school, we're talking about the education aspect of it. Because one of the things that we also found out is when people see an opportunity and then are able to engage in that opportunity, now the information that you're trying to get them, you kind of digest a little bit. It's like when the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus fed them before he gave them the sermon, so that way their ears would be attentive. Again, that's the community homeschool community triangle. Again, going in and saying, how does this energy environment impact it? So we put together this energy ambassador program, and what that program does is we work with the utility, whatever resource that utility has, like with Southern California Edison. They have what's called the Energy Savings Assistance Program. California has, California statewide has the program. And what that program encompasses is a customer, an energy customer that's income qualified. They can get potentially their refrigerator replaced for free. They can get their dishwashers replaced. They can get weatherization services done to their home. The CARE program has a 30% discount component to it for electricity. The CARE program for the gas company has a 20% discount. So what we do is we take all of these programs, put them within the energy ambassador confine, and then we train those ministries on how to outreach that information. Again, one of the other triangles that we deal with is we have them do an assessment. What's the state of your organization? Each ministry has to do that. And then the next one is what's the state of your congregation? And then what's the state of your community? And say with the state of the congregation assessment to be able to go out and say now Edison has a $50,000 high school student scholarship program. One of the challenges that we had over, say, probably a 15, 20-year period was we were having real low numbers of Black applications coming into the Edison system for this $50,000 scholarship. It started out at 30. And then, working with Edison, they increased it right before COVID. They increased it to 40. Right after COVID, they increased it to 50. So what we do now is we take that program and put it in as part of our energy ambassador program. And then we work with those ministries that are part of it. So what that does now, that gives that ministry an opportunity to have a scholarship program that they don't have to have any monies for. They don't have to come up with the funds. So what we do, we take that program, put it into that particular ministry, assign it to the ministry's youth and young adult ministry leaders, and then have them work with their students to apply for the application. We do the exact same thing with, say, like the Energy Savings Assistance Program, going in and doing that state of your congregation assessment. We're working now with Grid Alternative, and Grid Alternative has a program where they have about $53 million that they can go through in areas of South LA and do solar on the roof. Then we ran into a challenge with, okay, the roofs may need to be replaced. We had to go and find funding to even go now and get the roofs replaced as well. Take that information, put it into that ministry that's a part of the ambassador program, and then give them an assessment tool that they can go and say, okay, now, how many people in your congregation is eligible for this particular program? And then we do what's called days of opportunities. We do them on Sundays or Saturdays, and then take that information. Say on a Sunday, Edison will come into the church facility, or Grid Alternative, or Lacey, with the workforce development program. And we set up at the church on that particular day, bring all of those resources in, and then allow, because now we have a captive audience. We work with that pastor to get him trained on how to deliver that information. We've even been able to go and work with them and put sermons together that goes in and pulls in this energy ambassador and this climate change issue. One of the scriptures would be, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So now everybody that I know that's a believer says, we believe that the earth is ours. Okay. If God has given us his most precious resource to take care of, are you being a good steward over it? And are you utilizing that energy wisely? We even put energy into our wealth building programs because, again, asking the question, okay, after your mortgage, what's the next most important line item in your household budget? Your utilities. Now, are you aware of how you can be a better steward over that? Because the less money you spend on your utilities, the more you can put into your household budget. Again, becoming a wise steward over your energy is just good and smart. So again, again, this slide here shows you we go in and we really do work and train. We even go as far as working with those organizations. If they don't have a community development corporation, or if they don't have a nonprofit, we work with them to form their nonprofit for them, and then also work with them to put together their strategic plan so they can go and get their projects funded. Again, we really do try to work with them to we call it low-hanging fruit. If you engage the community with the low-hanging fruit, now if Miss Jones has gotten the refrigerator, she's gonna tell Sister Jenkins, Sister Jenkins is gonna tell Sister Johnson, Sister Johnson is gonna tell Sister Jones, and then what happens is now when they see it's really for real, now we're able to deliver the information to them. We've even built up Edison, working with Edison. They've even helped us build up websites. We've got an Energy Ambassador website, which works with the community. We've got all the resources, et cetera, that are there. We work with them on highlighting their websites. We take their website, if they have one, and then we take our website, and then we encourage them to replicate our website on their website. And so what we've actually become is a energy education resource center. We use our site as a resource center. So whatever is out there, we go do the due diligence on it, get trained on it, and then we put it on our website, and then we do workshops. We call them lunch and learns. We do lunch and learns with those that are part of the ambassador program or any ministry that has an interest in it. We just did one 2 weeks ago with the university at a United Methodist Church. We've got another one coming up in 2 weeks at a United Methodist Church, again, of inviting those ministries, because we pretty much know that if the pastor says it from the pulpit, it's pretty much going to be taken as gospel. But what we do is we make sure that the information that pastor is putting across the pulpit is fact information. So again, when we engage the program, we ask pastor, we need you to engage this process. Now, after we get you beyond level one, okay, pastor, we need you to move to the side. Give us 5 of your members that we can train to act as your energy ambassadors, and then that particular ministry site becomes an energy ambassador site. Once they become a site, now we're working with 6 of them to put a community-owned solar project on their site. And then again, utilizing the ministry as the community connector to when we have to do our community outreach and our community opinion surveys, we use the church as the town hall site to be able to get that information out. We're working with a number of we engage the elected officials. We work with the mayor's office community development department, again working with those ministries to get them to do the same thing. And we put mandates on them. Okay,
Reverend
during your,
Jackson,
yes,
Reverend
ma'am.
Jackson, I'm going to ask you to
Okay,
wrap things up in the next 30 seconds so that we can
you
still
got it.
have time for our
You
next.
got it. So again, one of the things that we really try to do is to engage the community with these resources, and we attend events, putting information, et cetera, out. We get the websites out. We get we get the social media information out, and we've been able to really make some headway. Even in the environment that we're in, we've been able to make some headway. With the fires that was going on, we've been really, really engaged with, again, now the rebuilding process of Altadena and the Palos Verdes area, because now we think it's a great time for us to go in and really take this community and build it as a green community.
Thank you, Reverend Jackson, for sharing so much about your work and the ways in which you're engaging in deep community connection around sustainability and conversations related to our energy system. I'm hearing so much about shifting the material realities of folks who are living in Los Angeles in relationship to energy. And the way that we found out about your work was through People's Solar Energy Fund, an energy democracy project collaborator. And I see how your organization is doing a really innovative approach to community outreach and rooting in gospel in a lot of the work that you do. So thank you for bringing in
Oh, you're
spirit.
welcome.
Yeah. So our next speaker is Debbie Peason, and Debbie is calling in from Virginia. Debbie is one of the founders of Living Energy Farm, LEF for short, an organic farm and intentional community in Louisa, Virginia that is off the grid and uses no fossil fuels. When she's not working on the farm, Debbie teaches others about sustainable energy systems and installs DC, or direct connection, microgrids, an innovative solar energy system designed and developed at the farm. She has two children who are both named after persimmon varieties. Welcome, Debbie. So glad you're here.
Thank you, Selena. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really grateful for y'all inviting me and for hosting this webinar. So yeah, I'm Debbie. My organization is Living Energy Farm on the rural county of Louisa, Virginia. We are an off-the-grid education center, organic farm, and intentional community of 10 people. There's a picture on the right of that slide of our little community. Our farm is fully energy self-sufficient with renewables and carbon neutral sources. And we use a system that we've developed here on the farm called the direct drive DC microgrid, which I'll talk more about in a minute. We started our project in 2010, largely as a response to seeing a lot of our friends and acquaintances building solar and storage systems, like decentralized standalone solar and storage systems that really didn't hold up over time. So really we saw a lot of people who wanted to be off the grid kind of not being able to pull that off over time. And usually the biggest weakness of these off-grid systems was the battery storage. So as we all know, we all use batteries and we all know that they don't last forever. They have a limited number of charge cycles, after which they start to lose capacity and eventually need to be replaced. And a typical off-grid system will require battery replacement every 5 to 10 years. And batteries are expensive, and this cost of replacing the batteries can often be higher than grid power. So for a lot of kind of regular people who aren't wealthy, ourselves included, it just doesn't make financial sense. One of the crazy things we've seen in the course of our work, we work a lot in Puerto Rico and other places that are experiencing energy insecurity and interested in being energy self-sufficient. And for a lot of these communities, when households invest in these solar and storage systems, so those being, mainly solar panels, PV panels, and batteries and inverters and all of that, a lot of times the batteries will actually need replacing before the system's even paid off. I mean, particularly for, a lot of people who are not wealthy, who are taking out loans for these systems, are still actually paying off the batteries when they need to replace them. So this is really not a workable solution for most regular people. So when we started Living Energy Farm, we knew we wanted to do things differently. We knew we couldn't afford to be depending on a huge battery bank. And we also didn't want to be kind of contributing to the environmental and human rights impacts that are associated with batteries. We can go next slide. So I don't need, I think with this group to spend a whole lot of time talking about extraction and disposal issues and kind of all the downstream impacts of consumption, but I just want to throw out a few numbers, which is, there's a movement among, climate change activists for electrification, kind of assuming that one day all these electrical loads are going to be powered with renewables and solar, wind, et cetera, and backed up with battery storage. And where we live, there isn't really useful wind, so I mostly talk about solar. Let's just say if we were going to, electrify and run with solar and batteries, like every house in the US, what that would take in terms of its resource footprint. And the numbers are really kind of staggering. These numbers are based on a study by UC Berkeley about the average battery backup that a household requires to have a few days in an emergency situation. So if you scale that up to the number of households in the US, we would require 60%, so 1,000 gigawatts of solar panels, which is 60% of what the whole world is currently using in terms of solar output, and 4 terawatt hours of battery storage. And that's just kind of a staggering number. And that is 4 times what the whole world currently consumes in terms of batteries every year. So like I said, those numbers just don't make sense. Like, we can't be consuming resources on that scale indefinitely, and keeping in mind that these batteries, don't last forever, so they need to be disposed of somehow. They need to be replaced. It just needs to go on kind of indefinitely. So we really need kind of another strategy for powering our communities with renewable energy other than just solar panels and batteries, because the world really can't afford it the way we're currently using energy in this country. So what we've been focusing on at Living Energy Farm is kind of building these alternatives for storing energy, like renewable energy, other than batteries, in a way that can be decentralized, that can be really owned and controlled by our communities and not by the utility. So I'm gonna go to the next slide. So what we've developed at Living Energy Farm is an integrated community scale system that we call the direct drive DC microgrid. So this picture is a number of roofs in our community, and there's a lot of solar collection going on here, but the bulk of it is not actually photovoltaics. It's not actually creating electricity. It's storing solar energy as heat. And so it's called solar thermal systems. It's actually an old technology that's fallen a little bit by the wayside just because of politics and doesn't really make sense from an actual economic standpoint. But so solar thermal production means that you're capturing heat as heat, and it allows you to store that heat as opposed to storing energy in a battery. So it's much more durable. It has a lot of other advantages that I'll talk about in a minute. So a lot of those collectors that you see are solar thermal collectors. Some of them are heating the house, or heating the water that we use in our house. Some of them are actually heating a biogas digester. So we make our own gas for cooking fuel. I'll talk about more in a minute. The solar panels that you can see in the picture, I don't know if you can see on the right, but there's 6 solar panels on the far right, and that's the biggest solar array in our community. So that's 6 solar panels plus the 2 smaller ones. That's all the solar energy that we take to support 10 people in our community. And the bulk of them are running a system that we call direct drive, wherein we're running direct current appliances straight off the solar panels without any batteries or inverters in the way. It's a much simpler, much more efficient system. And I'll talk more about that in a minute as well. So this is just kind of like show you what it looks like. There's only the 2 smaller panels, I don't know if you can even see them, but the 2 smallest solar panels in the picture are the only ones that are actually charging batteries. Everything else in this system is capturing energy in a way that's, in storing energy in a way that's not a battery. So we can go to the next slide. So here's 3 strategies that we use and that we teach to store solar energy without a lot of batteries. The first, as I mentioned, is solar thermal heating systems, where we're collecting and storing heat as heat instead of electricity. So like to heat our house, we don't use a heat pump. What we use is we have a large hot air collector, which is in the picture on the left. We're actually building that. We've actually built that collector ourselves. So it's something that, we don't have to rely on specialized equipment outside of the community to supply this for us. So we're building these collectors ourselves. They heat up air, and then we use a forced air system with a solar powered blower to move that heated air under the floor. And then the storage itself is just the thermal mass in the floor. And it works really well. We had a super cold winter, like a lot of the country this year, and we only had to light 5. We do have a backup wood stove, but we only lit 5 fires the whole winter, and we were fine. We were super comfortable in our house. We used straw bales for insulation. It's really important that you build to very high insulation standards if you're using solar heat, because other, this is really what makes the system work. It doesn't make sense to pour a lot of heat into a poorly insulated building. It goes out through the wall. So that's another thing we teach is super insulation. And on the right, that picture is our crew wrapping a house in town in straw bales. And then we later built a solar heating system on that house as well. And yeah, so now that house is energy self-sufficient for staying warm in the winter. And go to the next slide. So another strategy, like I said, we work a lot in Puerto Rico. There's a big interest there in energy self-sufficiency. I mean, people have really experienced firsthand how, the utility is not their friend, that they are, just extracting everything they can out of that island. It's huge, privatized. And so people are really motivated to get off the grid. So we've had a lot of interest out of the island, and we're doing a lot of work with direct drive, particularly around cooling systems, refrigeration, fans, that sort of thing. And all of those things can be done directly if you use these, appliances that are made to run DC. You can't just run any old equipment, because most appliances, as we know, are made for alternating current, which is what the grid supplies. But you can get appliances that run solar direct. And then if you were able to get like a refrigerator, they make solar direct refrigerators that have, you can see in the picture in the middle, there's extra thick walls. So that way it stays cold at night. It doesn't even need to run at night. So it's using thermal mass storage, that the storing the cold in the food itself. And then we have an extra tight kind of seal around that food with thick walls. It's a chest design, so when you open the fridge, the cold doesn't go out, that sort of thing. But yeah, this way people are able to have refrigeration simply with one solar panel and this fridge. So that's been hugely valuable in Puerto Rico in particular. And other ways that we use direct drive is like we run a fully tooled metalworking shop at our farm. And that's a picture of my kids running the milling machine on the left. And we run our tools during the day with permanent magnet DC motors running directly off of solar panels. So this way we're able to, with just $1,000 worth of solar panels, we're able to run our whole shop. And if we were trying to do that with AC motors, it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, panels, batteries, inverters. We need to keep replacing the batteries. It's just so much more expensive when you're trying to run everything AC off of solar. We do a lot with water systems, which the picture on the right is a water system that we built for a community garden in Puerto Rico. And again, that's a solar direct pump, so it's just running during the day, but then we store that water in tanks as opposed to trying to store energy in a battery running the pump at night. Another example of non-electric storage in direct drive. We can go to the next slide.
I'm going to ask you to wrap things up in the next 30 seconds so that we can.
Okay. So we make our own biofuel or own biogas. I'm not going to go into detail about that because we're running out of time, but it's another great way that's how we do our cooking without having to use batteries for that. I'm going to go to the next slide. So yeah, we have a lot of resources out there for people who are interested in building systems like ours. There's information on our website. We do yearly DC solar training program every year at our farm. We do tours regularly at our farm. We're also happy to consult with communities that are interested in energy self-sufficiency. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you want to learn more. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm so inspired by the work that you do. And I see some questions that are popping in the Q&A as well. And I think that this is a huge opportunity for people to better understand how to build an energy system that works in right relationship with our local ecology, with Mother Earth. And it does also require us to hold the mirror up to ourselves and understand the ways in which our lifestyles fueled by the extractive economy are further continuing extraction. So thank you for your work. And I'm hopeful that you'll get a lot of folks reaching out to you after this call to share their curiosities as well.
Thank you, Selena.
So we've got about 7 minutes for question and answer. Folks in the audience, feel free to drop items in the Q&A. We're likely not going to be able to get to all of them, but for some of the shorter ones, we'll try and get to them. You can do so by clicking Q&A down at the bottom of your screen. And I'm just going to call out some questions, and I'll ask the speakers to keep answers to about a minute so that we can keep the conversation going. Kim Hunter asked, Michelle, can you talk a little bit about how Soulardarity educated folks about their role and power when it comes to state regulators, specifically at the Public Services Commission in Michigan, to fight for community energy and fight rate hikes?
Yes, we do training for speakers, witnesses that will speak on behalf of their experience with DTE. Um, Michigan Public Service Commission recently held this was the second one I know, open comment session. And the first one they did, they were expecting about 100 people. They got 200. So they went to a larger venue because they figured folks would just show up. We bring people in that are willing to do the speaking and help them craft their narrative. Kim is one good teacher on how to make your voice known and make your narrative good. And so they stood before them and gave their experience and also put pressure on them to make change. Now, understand, yes, DTE did get a rate hike, but they didn't get as much as they had asked. We believe part of that, not all of it, but part of it was due to the pressure that the consumers and the residents were able to put on the MPSC to not give them all that money and take it out of our pockets. But we do trainings for that. We have several different educational areas. A just transition workshop. We do an organizers boot camp to teach people how to organize and make their voice heard. And so we have a lot of educational areas going on in Soulardarity.
Thank you, Michelle. The next question I'm going to direct to Reverend Jackson, and this one comes from Kyla. I'm a graduate student and was wondering what role you see academia has in this fight for energy justice and energy democracy. And I think, Reverend Jackson, you're a great person to answer this because you've done a lot of work in academia.
Education is key. And that's one of the things that we've really rooted our program in the energy education piece. And academia has a real important role in this. That's why we have a close relationship with the University of Southern California. Again, being able to work with those ministries on how to approach a civic engagement issue, how to approach a public policy issue. We've even went and formed another organization, a nonprofit, so that when our energy ambassadors complete their indoctrination process, they go into the collective empowerment organization, almost like it's a nonprofit, but it's almost set up like an LLC. So that way, if we do need to go to Sacramento, if we do need to engage, with the Department of Energy or the California Public Utility Commission, now when they're speaking to, now they may be in their mind, they could be speaking to a couple 100,000 people, because what we do is we take the collective numbers of the ministries that are a part of the ambassador program, and then we put those numbers together. So that way, like West Angeles has, West Angeles got about 20,000 members. Faithful Central is sitting at about 15,000. Our church is sitting at about 400. So we start gathering up these numbers. Now, when they see us coming, now you're not looking at, say, 10 pastors or 20 pastors. You're looking at 20 pastors plus their congregation. And we've been able to make some headway, like, say, for instance, with the net zero issue. Making some headway, with the rate hike increase. Matter of fact, we just got an email yesterday, and Edison is asking us to, do some work with the work rate hike. That the Public Utility Commission has authorized. They want us to go and do a survey. They want us to do some outreach to see how does the community feel about this. And that's where the Clean Energy Access Working Group comes in, because if you ask me to do this, then we want to see some results from from the questions and the responses that you get back. We're not just looking for you to be able to go and check the box saying we spoke to somebody in the community. We make sure that those ministries actively engaged in that civic engagement and public policy process.
Thank you, Reverend Jackson. And the last question, I'm going to try and combine some of these questions. So Debbie, this is going to be a challenge, but I know you got this. First, what kind of insulation do you use on the farm?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
How did you find DC run stuff? And
Nice.
then if you got time, an anonymous attendee was wondering if a big part of your success with this energy independence is actually using much less energy than the average person rather than just using different technology.
I'll do the last question first, which is yes, definitely. I mean, we call this a conservationist lifestyle. This is living with conservation as one of our core values. So yeah, we kind of live, I liken it to eating out of a garden instead of getting from the supermarket. You know, it's a relationship with the sun, and you have to learn when is that power available, how to use it. And yes, we do use less energy, definitely, especially for those loads that are depending on the battery, and that's mainly like lights, our computers, and fans. We're very mindful of that. Now, you know, use more when we have it, less when we don't, that sort of thing. So what kind of insulation? Well, like I said, we teach about insulating with straw bales just because we like it. It's pretty affordable. It lends itself to community labor. We do a lot with volunteers, and you know, you can just stack a straw bale. We do retrofits, like where we're stacking straw bales right up against. But it's more about the quantity matters more than the exact kind of insulation. It's just about having enough, because our insulation standards in general are far too low for solar to be an effective heating source. So that's what we're trying to teach, is thicker walls really is what it comes down to. I mean, straw bales are 18 inches thick, you know, 9 inches, like just putting some insulation in your stud walls is just not enough, no matter what kind you put in there. So it's almost more about the quantity than the impact. And there was one more, getting DC appliances. So that is actually a big part of what we do, is help people source DC appliances. That's one of the more complicated parts of the transition. And we definitely support with that. We've started importing some DC appliances ourselves through our company, Living Energy Lights, which does supplied, you know, direct drive DC. We're working with some Amish equipment companies with our refrigerators, Amish made, because we really like their quality and their prices. So sometimes we've actually had to make that happen ourselves as an organization. Sometimes with pumps, there's a lot of manufacturers to choose from. So it's just a matter of you know, every water system is different. So it's a matter of looking at the details of the situation and figuring out what works best out of the many options available. And sometimes we had to be more proactive, and sometimes we do convert things ourselves. We'll take out a motor and take out an AC motor and put a DC motor. Some appliances run on universal motors, and if you can just modify the controls, you can run them either way. So that's part of what we teach in our training programs. A lot is about sourcing DC equipment and also converting AC equipment to DC equipment. It's a very complicated subject.
Oh, thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you, Reverend Jackson. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Nora, for helping out. And thank you, everyone who attended as an attendee today. We've got some really great questions that came through. And following this presentation, we'll be sending out the recording to this conversation and to the presentation materials so that you can share it out with your larger networks. I think there's a lot of juice here that can be shared with our community. And in these times of everything that's going on, there's so many different glimmers of hope that I know I personally got in hearing these conversations and in hearing your wisdom. So thank you to the three of you. So to close off our time together, I'm just going to wrap up some high-level calls to action that the Energy Democracy Project is moving forward. Some of these are reflective of the conversation that happened today. So Nora, I'm just going to ask you to share the screen once again, and I'll wrap up our conversation in that way. And it will be my presentation. In the meantime, because I know we only got a couple minutes, the first one, here we go, is organize. So you've heard some wonderful stories of mutual aid organizing, of tapping existing funding resources, of finding DC equipment that you can install on your own affordably or with the help of folks like Debbie at Living Energy Farm. Tap into the Energy Democracy Project Network. I'll type in our URL in the chat, and you can find a collaborator near you to start organizing with to help build your capacity to stand resilient during these times. Second is resource our communities, and Michelle called this out as well. Especially for any philanthropists or funders that are attending this call, we're calling on you to provide the capital resources that we need to fill the gaps, especially as the federal government is freezing the funds that were promised to our communities. Lastly, we're asking you to stand in solidarity. Understand the connections that we have in our energy system, understanding that these are global networks of both energy extraction and consumption and production. And from the South to seaside communities of the West, and from Alaska to Puerto Rico, we're calling on shifts of this energy system. It's all linked. So you can follow the link to sign the official action demand of the Refocus campaign. Puerto Rico was mentioned today. Debbie does some work there. We've got collaborators and allies in Puerto Rico, and we are really amplifying the stories of what's going on in PR. I'm going to type this in the chat so you all can sign up if you haven't already. And that is what we'll leave you with today. One final thing that I forgot to add in the slide is that we do have the second part of this webinar that you all can join. It's going to be focusing on policy. So we'll be having some great speakers who are really tracking what's going on at the federal, at the state, and at the city levels for you all to continue your energy democracy work. So till then, thank you, be well, and see you on March 19th.
See you on the 19th. Good job, everybody.
Great work.
Thank you. Great work.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
It was great to meet everybody.
Yeah.